I always wait for you to like check to double check and make sure, but I think we're going to go ahead and kick it off.
Okay.
Because we're recording anyway, and this live broadcast becomes a podcast, so we can just jump into it, shall we?
Let's go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to 101 Live with Coach Blue and Athletic Director Marissa. That's where you say, hey, everybody.
Oh, sorry. I'm just realizing I got blocked. I got kicked out of Facebook again today, and I can't get that code generator to work. So there's nothing I can do here to talk to people today.
No social media, huh? Well, while you work on that, I will introduce to everyone the purpose of this here podcast and a live show. This is an opportunity for you to jump in, talk about things related to substance abuse recovery, addiction, relapse, all that fun stuff, I guess, in that world of chaos that sometimes plagues families, systems, and individuals. Also, if you have questions or thoughts on, relationship stuff, therapeutic content, mental health, we are here to help. And, today's going to be no different as we jump into this podcast and a live show. We're going to talk a little bit about a new law in Utah that has the audacity to restrict addictive behavior. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But first, I want to give a shout out and thanks to everyone so far who's been registering for our upcoming events. We've got two awesome events, Marissa. The No One Left Behind and our Proxy Run.
So No One Left Behind Team Half Marathon is June 17th. You get the 3 friends of yours. There's 3 of you. You're going to run a half marathon together. That's the point. You start together, you finish together, and you spend time together. Just like in recovery, we can't do it alone. So come join our Team Half Marathon. June 17th, get registered now on our website, addictathlete.org. Under races, you can get registered. And then in September for Recovery Month, we have our annual 5K. That is one that you can, the point is, for Recovery Month is to support and celebrate those in recovery or those who have passed on from mental health issues and addiction issues. So we have Run for Yourself, Run for Someone Else, or Run in Memory of Someone.
Absolutely. And as soon to be announced, and we'll kind of give you a teaser right now, it's looking like a Team Addict Athlete and Victory Recovery in Arizona are going to create another proxy run coming up this November. So stay tuned as we get more details for that. Can't wait to share Addict to Athlete with the Victory Recovery crew down there in Arizona and kind of combine the Agents of Recovery as a bridge. So good to have that coming up on the horizon. So keep your ears and eyes tuned in for that. Hey, Marissa, we've got this awesome program. We call it the Patreon subscriber list. These are you who want to help us promote this podcast, get it out there a little bit further, and, picking a tier that might work best for you to donate to the program to help us increase our listenership and get this stuff out there. And, as little as $2 a month can get you all the bonus content, which we just recorded another bonus episode today. Yep. And funny enough, what we talked about is going to be, I think, a little bit of what we're talking about on this little podcast. Yeah. We talked a lot about how to understand pornography addiction through a clinical assessment and kind of what you need to look for and why it happens. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but the deep dive on that is on the Patreon. Yes. It'll be up very shortly. So
more exclusive.
Who are they who we can give shout outs, glory, and credit to who help support this program through the Patreon list?
So we want to thank our super fans, Karen Hardy, Steve Riggs, Tracy Whitby, Jerem Thurston, Tara Butson, Holly Davies, Scott Foster, Brett Frew, Chris Williams, Sensei KP Brown, Patrick Forsyth, Brock Ellerman, and Christy Case. Then our rookie level is Sherry Paulson, Earl Dyer, Wendell Wood, Brad Waldron, Gary Thurston, and our pro levels, Justin Robbins, and our champion level, Shad and Freya Robinson, Ron and D. Loesch, and Andrew Baird.
Thank you all so very much. We could not do this without you. It really is a humbling list that we've got there. So thank you, everybody, for doing that. If you want to join the Patreon subscription, get some bonus content, everything that kind of the backbone of stuff that we do here on Team Addict Athlete, jump on patreon.com/addictathlete. All right. With all that fun stuff aside, let's jump into today's topic. We've got a few people that have talked to us about this, what our thoughts are. And I thought, well, what better way to share that with everyone at once than the one-on-one podcast? So earlier last week, it was kind of an interesting thing, and I wasn't aware this was happening, but I'm thankful that it did. Here in the state of Utah, among other states I know have done this, Utah has officially blocked Pornhub users for an age-restrictive law that they put into place. Yeah. And what this basically means is that Pornhub, it's one of the leading pornography sites. I mean, there's probably a bazillion of them out there, has blocked access from users in Utah that wish to view their content. And what it has now required you to do is, and I say blocked kind of like half-heartedly, because what they are going to require you to do is to give your state-issued ID kind of like input every time you log on to this platform. And my heavens, has this caused some controversy.
Oh, yeah.
From Facebook posts from people I've seen right down to like people that don't even live here in the state about how this is a restriction of freedom of speech and all that fun stuff. And I want to jump into this today because I didn't realize how concerning. I thought everyone would be a little bit excited about this.
Yeah. Well, it sounds
not the case.
Pornhub is upset, saying that it is unconstitutional, the age verification, that it violates the First and 14th Amendments, and it's infringing upon the rights of free speech, privacy.
But here's the deal. Does it really? Because if all it's asking is to require a state-issued ID to prove that you are an adult that can view the content, why do we have the same attributes for alcohol, tobacco consumption, renting cars, things of that nature? I think that when we start looking at these kind of things, we've got to really peel back the layers and see what they're really worried about is the financial impact, because they're not going to be making the amounts of money that they once did. If this were truly a constitutional issue, we'd be having a lot more backlash and it would be a lot more apparent. There is absolutely nothing wrong with age-restricted material and having you give your ID. Now, the thing that makes people upset is, well, what are they going to do with my ID? Are they going to sell it to the Saudi government? Are they going to like have the foreign immigrants come over and still might? No. Here's the issue, and I really want to make this clear. If you are so afraid to put in your ID to view pornography, to watch people have sex, then I'm real curious, like why you're so secretive about it. Why so taboo? Why is this the thing that's scaring you the most? Because I remember talking about this in the world of addiction. I remember a guy saying, I don't drink when my parents are around. And I'm like, well, that's kind of dumb. Do they know you drink? Well, I don't know, but I don't want them to really know that I drink.
Yeah.
So you're ashamed of it. And so you're hiding it. And you're saying that's not a problem. It's the same thing with pornography, right? If you're so abundantly against this, then why don't you come out and tell everybody that you watch pornography? Like, why don't you come out there and put it out there? Well, because it's taboo and it's not it's not a healthy thing. The level of addiction that we see with pornography far outweighs level of addiction to substances in the United States of America and probably beyond. And so I get why people are saying this, but this is more so you don't want anyone else knowing that you, sir or ma'am, watch pornography. And I've seen people post on Facebook and stuff go as far as to blame this on the church and whatnot. No, this is a moral issue that we've really got to look at.
Yeah, to me, it's nothing. It's about an addiction issue as well, and behind it, it's the sex trafficking, it's the abuse on, the actors on the other end, and what happens on that side. So
absolutely. And so I look at this kind of stuff and I think, all right, if you guys are that adamant against it, then why are you okay with doing it with, again, renting cars, buying alcohol, things of that nature? And, I know that there's some other folks that were kind of on this platform that were talking a little bit about like, well, you'll just get a VPN and download it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can, and problem solved, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here's the deal. If you're going to that length to view people having sex, I think you might have a little bit of a problem. And I know you'll be upset with that. Some people will be like, oh, it's my right. It totally is. It totally is. But call a spade a spade. If you're having that much heartburn because you don't want people to know that it is actually you that's doing this, well, then we need to have a little conversation here.
What's the real issue?
What's really going on? You know what I'm saying? And so I've been I've been excited to talk about this for the simple fact of many of the viewers don't realize how incredibly damaging watching pornography can be. I remember, I think it was Amy Donaldson that posted a story about a year or two ago about a class up in, I can't remember, somewhere in Salt Lake, Northern Utah area, a college that was offering a class about pornography by which they would be viewing pornography. And I'm thinking that is the dumbest thing you could ever teach. Because although you're trying to do it in an academic like environment,
safe place,
those images last forever in the mind too. And I'm not trying to be holier than thou or whatnot, but what it physically does to the brain is just as devastating as heroin.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize that. They think, oh, it's free love. It's, no restrictions. It should be, careless and worry free. It's a huge issue. It's a moral issue. It's a individual issue. It's such a stain on society because it goes right to the core of what makes human relationships even palatable. Does that make sense? Like,
and it's trying to normalize things that are abnormal, because most of the porn industry is abnormal.
Mhm.
The presentation, everything, execution, everything. And so it creates something that's unrealistic, same as substance use, right? You get your dopamine dump, and it's an unrealistic dump that you get, and things that you can't get naturally. So
absolutely.
Same concept.
Well, and this is the thing too, is, thank heavens I've never struggled with this issue. And I would say a majority of that is because we have open dialogue about this topic. We have children that we talk this about. Marissa and I talk about this as husband and wife.
Yeah.
And one of the things, because male dominance over the porn industry is very apparent. The male brain is wired such that kind of, like, I guess, visual aspect is kind of what leads the male brain to it as well. And so dominantly, it's a more male issue than it's female. Looking for, it's not only. Kind of embarrassing. Like we said, so it's incisions with everything. Still, rather than just and I like the let me trust the website. Really, and they're going to think that's it's interesting.
What's going on? Many people often say, "I'll fine." Usually, in integrated and actually drug
We have a huge problem in our society, and the economic factor is kind of what drives all of this. I mean, from stories that we've heard now from the platform OnlyFans, by which average individuals now can utilize this as an income source for showing nudity and suggestive posing and things of that nature. It creates a massive amount of financial income, which for a individual who may come from eager means that wants to, and I see a lot of these validations like paying for college and things of that nature.
Yeah.
The instantaneous access to wealth becomes very apparent when you're willing to push your own boundaries, morals, and values for the pleasure. Does that make sense?
Well, and that's, yeah, all of a sudden, even becoming that rich and that wealthy overnight makes it very, very difficult to work through. How do you handle that? You know, I mean, we've worked with many, many kids, adults who have been overnight in money or born into money. And man, it causes issues.
It does.
It causes problems.
And my thing is too, is that you are all adults, hopefully out there that's kind of having heartburn over this. And the adult factor to this is you get to do and choose what you want. If you want to do that as a source of income, more power to you. That is your avenue. That's your lane you want to be in. That's totally fine. Like I want everyone to know that I don't want to limit choice on how people do this. If that is what you truly want, or you put yourself into that position, then that's okay. That's fine. That's your right as a human being to be able to choose
to be educated
your
about
path.
things.
Yeah.
Yes.
And for instance, like the instance here in Utah, I'm all about, doing things that can deter, and it won't eliminate, but deter access to those harmful things.
Give some kind of border boundary.
Because that may be a little bit of a buffer that's like, I don't want to push this all the way. Now, for those of you that truly want it, it's not going to be a problem for you. You're like, here's my license. Go ahead, photocopy it, scan it, do whatever you want.
You can get
I don't know what information they want. I haven't jumped on there to see because I don't have any interest in it. But I know that what we're talking about really, truly isn't the handing over of the ID. It's something deeper than that. You know what I'm saying? Like there's more issue to it. I think it's the veil of secrecy because it's an embarrassing, taboo topic and situation.
Yeah, it becomes shameful.
Absolutely. There are some relationships by which I'm sure that could be something that both husband and wife enjoy. And what goes on in your own home is up to 100% you. 100% you.
Yeah.
I don't think there should be restrictions on that kind of stuff because obviously it's husband and wife. But the restrictions of and saying that it's against freedom of speech, we gotta be careful with that because you start pushing those buttons. There's a lot more other devastating things that we know could be very harmful that you wouldn't want.
Yeah.
If we do those kind of things. So simply saying we want an ID check is not a constitutional like violation. It's just not. I know that it's going to financially impact the corporation, and I think that's what this is more about. There was a video I saw of an adult porn star who was talking a little bit about why it's not beneficial and why she doesn't think that it's going to work. Mm-hmm. And it's because that's your industry. I mean, that's of course you're going to say that. They're giving no like composing thoughts on what to do. Then they're saying like, we'll design a phone that restricts it.
That only has.
I hate to tell you,
all minors are restricted from everything.
It's the same thing. All right. I mean, anywhere you go at, there's going to be this word restriction. And so, it's got to start somewhere. It would be interesting to see like those on the other side, because I think the one that you were reading in Rolling Stone magazine was talking a little bit about the fact that, young kids would still access it because they simply would download a VPN.
Yeah. One of the porn stars is saying, the idea of teenage boys watching me makes me want to vomit. And I don't believe that. I know my colleagues share the same sentiment, but she believes that youth are much more tech savvy and can work around it and get the VPN and be able to watch, and it will keep the adult men away from logging in and watching, which is who they want their audience to be.
I'm calling crap on that. I don't believe that. I don't think that when it goes out, they're worried about, the young ones watching it because, you go look at statistics, it's youth and the teens that view more than anything. And I get it. I get that that's a great statement to make, but I don't believe that. The alternatives with the alternate phones and things of that nature, it's just not going to happen. I think, when we boil it down to its parental involvement in families. But that's not a fun, sexy thing to talk about either, because that's
difficult because no one's willing to do that part. Because
100%.
That's too hard. So we want to put in barriers to it, and then we want to complain about the barriers that are in place.
I've seen far more relationships that have ended and have been put on like very turbulent skies because of pornography than I have that have used it as a catalyst for the relationship. I know several that have attempted to use it as a catalyst to the relationship, and it's ended very devastatingly because, again, we're talking about real life intimacy. And in the Patreon episode that I released, that we're releasing today, I go into great detail about being able to understand and access and understand through assessments that we take in the clinical approach on how to look at, diagnose, and then categorize what level. And there were a few things that I kind of remembered that I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of important. These addictions that kind of come into place. You look at like, how do we become addicted? You usually fall into 3 categories, okay? And I thought this was kind of an interesting, I don't know, thought process, but there's the trauma-induced addiction, which obviously comes from childhood trauma, whether it's sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, right? Yeah. That's one we see most often, right? But then there's the attachment type of addiction, where if it's attachment, that means that growing up we never had secure attachments, and this is what we typically see in pornography.
Looking for a connection,
looking for some kind of connection. And so when a individual pursues pornography as an attachment, pornography never leaves them. It's always there, readily available, and they're just ready to use it. So then when a real life breathing person comes in, they know that the potential of loss for that person is greatly high because they've had it in the past. And so why would I fully emotionally engage and attach to this person when, if they find out who I am, what I do, the authentic parts of me, they're going to leave, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the opportunistic induced addiction, which is it's so readily available. Why not? Right? It's on every computer. It's on every screen. It's on every movie. And so when you look at the opportunity, the attachment, and the trauma, very few people go in there for the recreation. That's not even a category of addiction. So I'm like, all right, what are we really doing here? Society. I mean, society in and of itself is starting to consume its own self, which is kind of a sad thing.
Yeah.
And it's funny that something as small as like, let's verify to make sure you're appropriate age has caused this much heartburn.
Yeah. I've just jumping back to that connection. I read a study the other day about, what is one of the single most factors in soaring divorce rates, and it is disconnection. They were saying, oftentimes people believe that it's communication, because people say, "Oh, I grew apart." The problem's hasn't been about communication; it's about disconnection. They are not disconnected because they have poor communication. They have poor communication because they are disconnected. So instead of focusing specifically on communication, to improve marriage is looking at prioritizing your connection. And so, to me, that's such a key in what you're saying here too, that one of the leads to porn addiction is that connection, right? It doesn't have to do with the communication. It's feeling connected and feeling connected with other people. And so, if it's something that you're struggling with in your marriage, let's look at how you can do deeper connection like we talk about. And there's intimacy beyond physical stuff that you can connect with. And if you're a person personally that's struggling with addiction, with porn, how can you connect with other people?
Yeah.
It's got to be improved on to be able to let go of some of that if that's something you're struggling with.
Well, the attachment factor, I mean, again, when you start looking at marriages and why they begin to disconnect and to fail, you can trace this all back to childhood trauma, every bit of it. And I think that there's conceptual aspects to the attachment part, right? If you're not feeling like you're part of something, if you're disconnected, if you're going to have this thought of that no one cares, that's a big one for this kind of stuff. And so when someone comes in with pornography addiction, then we can kind of drill down on what factors led them to that. More often than not, what I've seen is the attachment factor and induced addiction, because through childhood they've never had the love, the compassion. They've had it, but it has kind of been a little bit scarce.
Even true attachment at the beginning with mother, and being able, whether your mom was there, being able to interact and being able to assess your need and meet your need.
Yeah.
It starts very young.
Yeah. See, and things to go so far as to call the days of yesteryear, like prohibition, where the U.S. government made the consumption and production of alcohol illegal. I don't like that idea, but that's kind of funny coming from a non-drinker / addiction counselor and mental health therapist. But I am very open to people having choice. I really am.
Yeah.
But I like the restriction of the buffer.
Yeah.
I like it.
Some safety around it.
Kids are going to view porn on Pornhub in Utah. They are. because they're tech savvy. They'll use VPNs and and that VPN is their little step around the whole thing. So
I wish there were devices that kept all youth out? Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
But until, if and when that is ever possible, to have some kind of safety net is absolutely important.
I get the other side of the argument. I truly do understand the other side of the argument. I really do. That it is a hassle, that the giving of the ID could potentially put you at risk. But again, every time you log on and make a purchase on Amazon or anything else, you're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's not a taboo thing to order groceries from Amazon as it is to jump on and watch pornography and masturbate for however long. It's not. It's very different. But what it boils down to is it's an invasion of your own privacy at that point, where you're now saying, wait a minute, now I have to expose myself, and show who I am. Who gets this list? And again, the cocky comments of it's going to the church or it's going to the governor. I'm sure the governor of the state of Utah is not scrolling through all the people viewing porno. I mean, there's just, come on, you guys, don't be narcissistic. There's no way they care enough about you to do that.
They have too many other things going on, I believe.
And I get the fact that, there could be a violation of like my license and my ID getting, out there. I mean, but that's internet today. What it truly authentically boils down to as well is producing and promoting this stuff, the anti-pornography viewing at a very young age with your family. It's about you dealing with your trauma and going through that. And then it's about being very open and honest with your spouse. Again, if this is something that you both consent to, go for it. It's your prerogative. You can totally do that.
And I think it's like you said, it's be educated. If you're interested, if you're worrying about this, good, bad, or other, educate yourself so that you can make a good decision and go, oh yeah, I feel good about doing this. Or, wow, there really is such a negative side, a dark side of porn that I never thought about before that is hurtful. And if I engage in that, I'm joining in the abuse.
The abuse, absolutely.
But be educated about what the choice you're going to make.
Absolutely. And so, listeners, again, it's not to come up here and preach on a high horse. A lot of people have asked our opinions on this, but all in the same breath, it's like, I'm okay with this. I think it's an okay thing. And it's okay because obviously I don't do it, so I'm not going to, have any heartburn in it. But again, it boils back to that same factor. If you are that strong about it, then who cares who knows? It's kind of like this. It's like, people are always nervous about talking about, stuff about their personal lives with people because they're afraid that if someone hears it, they could use it against them. My mindset is very different about that. I'm like, I don't care because I'm dealing with all this stuff and I'm okay with talking about it. It gives me opportunities to share more about it. But that's me. That's not a lot of other people. I don't think you want to have a bumper sticker that's like Pornhub 2024 or something. I mean, that would be a little strange, but what, to each their own. But I do think that if we want to have a civil society, if we want to have a community by which we're all feeling safe and we're all feeling, to a certain degree, able to live a quality of life that we would find intriguing, there's got to be some boundaries. There's got to be some fences and some accesses that like keep it very, I guess, appropriate. Keep it safe.
I think it's like Gandhi said, we need to be the change that we want to see in the world.
Yeah.
And it is bigger. And as much as oftentimes we are a very small cog in a huge organization of the earth and the world and global climate, we are a part of it. And each of the choices we make have effects. It's the ripple effect, the butterfly effect. There is something that comes about with every choice we make. And so thinking that you're just living your own life, not affecting anyone else, is ridiculous. It doesn't happen. So
I remember like when Colorado legalized recreational use of marijuana, how many people from Utah started vacationing and driving to Colorado, right? And it was interesting because, they were so adamant about them wanting to like be, I guess engaged in that recreational activity, which I don't think smoking weed is recreational, but that they were like so upset that they'd have to go to that degree to get this product and bring it back here then illegally.
Yeah.
I'm thinking you put yourself at great risk to go do that for what reward? And if you're willing to do that, then you're willing to, it's your choice.
Yeah.
Utah,
be educated
about it.
Yeah.
Utah legalized it for medical purposes. Fantastic. Do it. but do it the right way. I mean, you can't just walk in and get, medical marijuana off the street. Like, there are parameters there. And if you're willing to do that, and I was talking to an athlete that has had some experience with that, and he was telling me about how at first he was very kind of like, oh, am I going to be judged about this and whatnot? And we think we are, but he walks in there, talks to the people. It was very cordial, very nice. And guess what? It was okay.
Yeah.
But it's our own fear of being exposed that kind of keeps us like adamant against these kind of boundaries. When it's like, if you are going to do it and be proud of doing it, why hide from it? I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but the addictive component to it is really, and I'll be honest with you, I think I would love for it, to not be around at all.
Yeah.
But, like Gandhi said, I got to be the change that I want to see. And I'm certainly not condemning anyone who wishes to view it. I mean, I'm not. I think you are an adult. Go right ahead. It is your choice. I'm a very choice-based person.
Yeah, we have opinions, but yes, we totally 100% believe in choice.
I really do, because with choice comes consequence. I mean, if sexual intimacy, physical intimacy is becoming such a problem that you have to start watching things to make it produce, there's a bigger issue there.
Yeah.
Like you just said.
Connection, self-esteem. I mean, there's a million other issues. And that's what needs to be addressed, not whether you can watch or not watch porn. Well,
and I've noticed a trend with pornography addiction, that pornography addiction that I've seen is not about the sex. It's not about like the act of the physicality of it all. It's about stress reduction. It's about self-soothing. And so it's kind of an interesting thing when it's like, well, what mechanism drove you to that instead of being able to find a more long-term solution? Because pornography addiction is a lot like heroin addiction, where it's just the buildup of all the tolerance that's developed, right? Because first people start watching some of the softer porn, maybe a few pictures, then it's video, then it's more extreme, because your tolerance level, like any substance, will increase.
Yeah,
you'll have to do longer durations of time to find the source of material you're looking for, and it will become progressively more violent in nature. And we don't realize it's happening.
You build it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And then there's the physicality of the withdrawal. When I don't have it, I'm thinking about it. And so there's a lot of complexity to a lot of this kind of stuff. But when it boils down to my own thoughts and Blue Robinson's own opinion, I'm glad that they've done this. If anything, to make it a small deterrent. It's not a solve. It's not solving it. And if someone has a better idea, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear it. But sometimes that's not always the case. So I don't know how much we want to kick the dead horse, but we were talking with our kids. We were talking about this topic with our daughter Savannah, and it was interesting because we had a very long conversation about pornography there, and sex is such a taboo topic to discuss that we're almost like embarrassed of it. And it absolutely cannot be. It's got to be a discussion that we can have without turning red or simplifying it. I think there's something in this day and age that needs to happen. Especially when it comes to the youth. And I hate to tell you, but even that's not enough of a deterrent. We are human beings. We are intimate by nature. That's kind of what creates more humans. So there's always going to be a desire to kind of like go down that path. What do you think?
I agree. I think people need to start connecting more. People need to start looking at the reasons behind all behaviors, not just why do I watch porn, but why is it when I get frustrated with my kid and I'm yelling at him, I go straight to the pantry and grab a donut.
Grab a chocolate,
If we don't start becoming self-aware of what we're doing and why we're doing it, or behaviors that are kind of a chain reaction right after a stressful event or whatever it is, we will not get better.
No.
And the whole point is that we are improving, we are growing, and we are making our world better, our family, the people that we interact with, and the world around us better.
Absolutely. And so today, because we had a podcast that we recorded just previously that went a little bit long. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode today. But listeners, what I'd love to know your thoughts on this. You may have a completely different thought than we have, and I'd love to hear it. So don't don't be afraid or ashamed to put it out here. We'd love to discuss it and kind of get other perspectives. But it was interesting. It was interesting to see the backlash. I didn't realize it would be such heartburn. And I can understand why. I really can. But for right now, this is what we've got. And if it helps even one person, I think it's worth it. But nonetheless, we'd love to know what you guys think. Keep close to the website, addictoathlete.org. You got lots of content on there for your developing an understanding on recovery. All of our team store, the outlet to become a certified recovery coach for Team Addict athletes, all there. You've done a great job of keeping all that content in one place so that we can get this out there. So utilize it. It's pretty amazing. Calendar of events up there too. And if you have an event you'd like Addict Athlete to be part of, reach out, let us know. We'd love to see what we can do to support you. Beyond that, listeners, again, thank you to the Patreon subscribers. And literally, until next time, continue to do your best to turn that mess into a message.